I know from my research at my last two organizations that I worked for that when you are the first to quote in this industry, you win 83% of the time. Right, Jim?
Is that a real stat?
It is a real stat. When you
Holy smokes.
quote fast, if you can live with the inaccuracy, that dollar accuracy rather than that penny accuracy, you have so much more time to engage with your customer when you can pick up the phone 10 minutes after they send you that RFQ and say, I'm thinking $22. And you thinking that's a little high? I can go to 21. 21, okay, perfect. Send me the purchase order. I'll fire up the mill in 10 minutes from now. That the confidence that brings in your business and your understanding of the business, the feeling that procurement professional that sent that RFQ of getting that instant pricing rather than having to wait and having to ping you, are you done with this quote yet? That brings so much confidence to the buyer of the part that shops them.
Hello and welcome to the Manufacturing Connector, your gateway to the future of manufacturing. Our mission is to empower manufacturers with the insights into the latest innovations transforming the industry. Each week, we will bring you cutting-edge case studies, in-depth demos, and expert interviews focused on the tools, technologies, and techniques driving manufacturing forward. I'm your host, Jim Mayer, and today we have a special guest, Chris Brown, Vice President of Sales for CADDi US. Chris has spent nearly 2 decades supporting manufacturers and has an impressive career that includes time as an investor and startup advisor. Notably, he played a key role in helping take Xometry public in 2021 after spending 8 years with Proto Labs. CADDi is a trailblazer in the manufacturing industry, empowering American manufacturing by transforming legacy drawings and supply chain data. With a mission to unleash the potential of manufacturing, CADDi provides innovative solutions that optimize procurement processes and enhance operational efficiency. CADDi Drawer, their flagship product, leverages AI to digitize and make manufacturing insights searchable, significantly improving workflows for various departments from procurement to engineering. In today's episode, we'll dive into CADDi's journey, explore real-world case studies showcasing their impact, and get a hands-on demo of their groundbreaking products and services. Stay tuned for an insightful conversation packed with valuable insights and practical solutions for the challenges faced by manufacturers today. Let's get started and see the future of manufacturing on the Manufacturing Connector. Hello, Chris. Welcome to the Manufacturing. It's our very first episode, man. This is awesome. I'm so pumped to be here. Couldn't think of a better company to spotlight on this than CADDi, and I'm glad you're the one presenting. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jim. Been a huge fan of yours through manufacturing culture and really excited to be part of this new venture with you here today.
Thanks, man. Thanks, buddy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be wild. I don't really know what's in store here. It could turn into a giant dumpster fire on my part. Your part will be lovely. So we'll see how it goes. So, Chris, tell us about CADDi. Well, let's back up. I know I have that other podcast where people tell their stories, but I want you to tell your story because Proto Labs, Xometry, your background, your time in industry, it's fascinating to me. So give the viewers a couple of minutes snapshot on who Chris Brown is and where you've been in your career.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. So Chris Brown, and really my career started at Proto Labs. I had not worked before that. I'd been at Best
Really?
Buy working my way through school and met the chief sales officer, then VP of sales of Proto Labs. And she brought me in for an interview. And
Wow.
lo and behold, that's how I ended up in this career. And instantly I knew from the minute I started there and took my first shop tour of the CNC machining facility and the injection molding facility that this is exactly where I wanted to be. And now here at CADDi, bringing a manufacturer's insight tool directly to procurement professionals, sales professionals, engineers, and letting them democratize all of their data across the entire organization person so that everyone can use that data in order to enrich their lives, enrich their products, and in order to enrich their workflows.
One of the things that you said in there, and I found this out doing while I was doing research on Caddy, was all the different departments that Caddy helps solve issues for. Before we dive into like the actual problem that Caddy solves, tell us a little bit more about Caddy's journey, how it came to be in the US, because you guys are relatively new in the US comparatively, but it's also got a pretty storied history already. So tell us about the history of Caddy.
Absolutely. So Yoshiro Kato, our CEO, he was working at McKinsey. He was the head of global supply chain consulting.
Okay.
One of the youngest ever to lead a team there. He,
Wow.
graduated at the University of Tokyo at a young age, top of his class, incredibly brilliant human being, right? And so he's consulting for McKinsey, doing the supply chain consulting, and he instantly recognizes, a big problem. And at that time, the big problem was supply chains were unreliable. It was hard to do supplier discovery. You couldn't go to one source of truth, one source in order to get all of the components that you needed. Very similar sounding to Xometry's startup, right?
Yep.
And so in its infancy, Caddy was started as a manufacturing organization with democratized manufacturing, much in the same way that other marketplaces are, here in the States are servicing those needs. And so they grew that operation very rapidly in Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, all places where both customers and manufacturers existed for them. They would receive requests for quotes from their customers. They would then put together quotes, win those jobs, and then distribute those jobs out to those manufacturers in order to execute on those. And what he realized was all of the software that he created internally in order to drive that business needed to be in the hands of OEMs tier ones and tier twos, right? When you're thinking about finding benchmark parts in order to price them quickly within dollar accuracy, I'm not talking about driving down to penny accuracy and getting the second of machine time and getting down to the penny per material pound and all that stuff. I'm talking about, hey, in the past, these parts have cost us 15, 20, and $25. Let's go ahead and quote $20 and see if we win this thing quickly, right?
Sure.
And all of the software that he used in order to find those benchmark costs, find those benchmark suppliers, who's performed well making these types of parts in the past for us, and let's route those jobs to those same shops. He knew that that type of a tool in the hands of procurement professionals and engineers and sales reps at OEMs, tier ones and tier twos would make them unstoppable. And so they started selling the CADDi Drawer application. Think drawer, not drawer, right?
Got it.
Big cloud-based filing cabinet for all of your
Yeah.
data and
Got
drawings.
it.
And so he started going out to his customers from his manufacturing service and offering that tool as well to them. And almost, overnight, call it 2 years, that's overnight in the SaaS world,
Yeah.
grew to 180 customers and recognized, okay, I'm here on the island of Japan, much smaller economy than the US economy. There's an economy out there that needs us. It's the US market as well. And so about a year and a half ago, they started operations here in the United States. I joined the organization about 6 months ago. He moved here about 8 months ago, and we're working on growing this thing here in the United States as well.
Tell us, Chris, exactly what problem does Caddy solve for US manufacturers, right? Because that's why we're here. We want to know what problem you solve.
We're a manufacturing insight tool, and that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different shops.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this industry underwent a digitization effort 15, 20 years ago, right? And all we really did at the end of the day was take our silos of data from the file cabinets to the cloud, right? They stayed in silos, they're locked in folders, they're not utilized, it's not easy to find. And so whether you're an engineer that wants to understand, have we ever designed a part like this in the past? That's a hard question to answer. If you're a procurement professional and you want to answer the question of who manufactures parts that are similar to this part for me, and about how much do we pay for those, and have we ever had any quality defects with manufacturers that make similar parts to this for us? That's really hard data to find. That's ERP system, engineering document management system, procurement system, quality management system. You're logging into all these applications, you're copying and pasting searches back and forth. All you're really able to search for are these categories that we've set up: the wheel, the bearing, right? You're not able to search by shape. And so, really, what Caddy enables you to do is have instantaneous access to the democratized data around your organization. Make it infinitely searchable. You can search by any word that's on a drawing. You can upload a new drawing to the system and click one button in order to find all of the similar parts based on geometry that you've done in the past. You can even start with a hand sketch. Here's a part I'm about to design. Quickly take a picture of it, load it into CADDi Drawer, do a reverse image search, and instantly find your entire catalog of parts that look similar to that hand sketch. And know, wait, I already have this part in my catalog. Why am I redesigning it? Or, hey, these three parts look really similar. If I just tweak those three designs into one design, it's going to serve the purpose of all four of those part numbers in my system, eliminating those from my system. Or if you're a sales rep that gets sent a request for a quote from an OEM with a machine part, you can upload that drawing and instantly see, okay, here's 10 parts that are similar in nature. Here's how much we've quoted them. We've won these parts at this price value, but we haven't won these parts at this price value. Or even things like, we've never won a part like this. Why am I quoting it? Obviously, we're not going to be good at it, right?
Right.
So, at the end of the day, really what we're doing is taking all of this data that's locked in all of these silos across an organization, tying it back to a drawing itself, and democratizing that data throughout an entire organization. And frankly, we're still learning how companies can use that as well. Every day, every time we walk into a customer's facility of ours and do a quarterly business review or a quick check-in, we always learn of new, unique ways in which our customers have utilized it and shared the
That's
tool
awesome.
with an admin, shared the tool with a scheduler in order to figure out what machines they've ran parts that are similar in nature on.
This is more than I even knew I was biting off, Chris. This is amazing. Um, all right, well, let's talk some case studies.
So, first, I want to talk about Subaru a little bit. A massive organization. Hopefully, everybody's heard of Subaru in the past. A Japanese-based organization that has large manufacturing facilities here in the United States, as well as a large number of employees here in the United States. And when we started talking with them, one of the things that we do is we go in and we really just interview employees around an organization. I think I talked about how passionate I am about sitting down with people and saying, look, an idea comes to mind. How does that get into production? How does that get out to a customer of yours' hands? Walk me through that whole process. Introduce me to everyone along the way. I'm just a curious 5-year-old at the end of the day who's going to ask the question why and how a million times. But one of the few of the things that we found out from, it was impossible for them to perform a drawing search without knowing the part number, the name, or the design number. And this is something that we hear about pretty much everywhere, right? This has been a problem that has plagued manufacturing since the Sumerians were, trading wheels on the Mediterranean in pre-biblical times, and we've always been describing the wheel as a wheel. We haven't described it as a shape somehow. Members of that organization had to scroll through parts to find a part number, to search with that number in order to locate the drawing or any of the other data, defect data, jigs and fixtures that were used, things along those lines. And when we really started diving into it, we found out that it took them 2,400 minutes to inspect 4,000 drawings, right? They needed to go through 4,000 drawings in 2,400 minutes in order to find what they were actually looking for. We dug in further and we started finding out that component parts weren't standardized because of time and ability constraints. The 10 millimeter bolt used over here was a different 10 millimeter bolt that used over here was a different 10 millimeter bolt than was used over here. And I really kind of blame that back on silos, right? And not on human silos, because I think humans want to interact, they want to talk, they want to share information. But these data silos that we've created and these inorganic ways of searching that we've created. And then lastly, we started talking to some of their quality teams and realizing that even their quality requirements were not standardized. The drawing of this particular wishbone suspension system, the quality requirements were different. They were similar, but they were different along the way. So we went in there, we talked with the organization, we talked with their leadership team about these types of problems. They instantly recognized these problems as age-old problems that are unsolvable. Right. Well, not once we got in there, because once we were able to get in there, they went through a similar test, and they went and searched again through 4,000 drawings in order to inspect them and find similar parts. This time around, it took them 30 minutes.
Really?
Absolutely. They figured out that their small components, within weeks, they were able to standardize their small components. How many 10 millimeter nuts do we have that are the exact same size, the exact same shape, the exact same dimensions, the exact same quality standards? Click of a button. Here they all are. Here's all the suppliers, all the part numbers. Why do we need those? Let's pick one. Let's negotiate on one. Let's save that money by increasing our economies of scale, rather than buying hundreds of different ones from dozens of different suppliers on hundreds of different purchase orders. And lastly, quality standards such as burr sizes or chamfered edges, or even the tolerances that a part had to be held to, rather than being confusing for that engineer to try to decide, do I make it plus or minus 5 thousandths of an inch in order to save money? Or do I make it plus or minus 2/10,000ths of an inch so I don't have to worry about the stacks everywhere, and I can live in a perfect utopia world where parts can be manufactured down to the atom and everything fits together? Those were standardized because as they were drawing their parts, they would scan that drawing into Drawer, they would find the similar components, and they would say to themselves, okay, well, a similar part was designed 2 weeks ago and it used these standards for quality. And another one was designed 4.5 weeks ago and it used these standards for the quality. And again, I go kind of back to that. That engineer didn't have to walk around to all the engineers that had been there for 20, 30, 40 years. All they had to do was click one button and look at things that have been done in the past, learn from that database institutional knowledge, and take action rather than wandering around and asking. So hopefully that Subaru use case resonates with you here a little bit. I've got another one to share with you. If you got time,
Please.
Questions about that, I'd love to answer them as well, Jim.
No question. My jaw, I've had to pick up my jaw twice while you were speaking. And it was around the time, right? And just that is such a massive amount of time that is immediately quantifiable to them, right? Immediately. The other thing, to me, that's the magic that you just shared in that use case, that case study, is those results are immediately quantifiable. You can look at cost savings on time. You can look at cost savings on the vendor. You can look at all of that and say, we consolidated from 500 vendors into 3 very well negotiated deals for those M10 by 45 bolts, right? You can say, you can amazingly quantify 2,400 down to 30 minutes. I mean, those are astronomical numbers, and somebody the size and scale of Subaru looks at that and they say, holy cow, that's pardon me, that's millions of dollars, I'm sure. But even some of our smaller shops, those high mix, low or high volume, I mean, I'm excited to hear that both of them will look at this, right? But that's immediately quantifiable for them as well, because their engineering time, their purchasing time that they are spending, and then you got negotiated. I'm blown away. No questions. Thank you for offering. I want to hear more. Let's hear another case study here.
I want to talk about the other end of the spectrum for a minute, Jim. I want to talk about an organization by the name of Punch Industries here in the United States. And they manufacture punches for sheet metal press brakes,
Okay.
custom designed ones that make parts that have never been made in the past. Not off the shelf tooling, but custom manufactured tooling. And we went in there and we started talking about the owner. We're talking to the owner, sorry, about his business. We've uncovered a couple of different things. Their sales lead time was way too long, and that means from getting an RFQ to sending a quote back to a customer. That was averaging 4 or 5 business days. And as a result of that, they had a diminished win rate, and some operational inefficiencies from that. We sat down, sorry, with the one of the sales reps on their team, and what we saw was a part would come in, and he had kept a spreadsheet for years of part numbers that had come in and what the PDF was. And then he had described that part over and over and over to himself in order to try to make searching for things easy in that particular column. And then he had his price stated and everything else in there. And he would sit and he would get the RFQ in from his customer, and he would start trying to describe that in order to look for that in his keywords that he programmed into his Excel spreadsheet. And then he would go over to his Windows Explorer screen in order to search for that drawing number. And then he'd open it up in Adobe and he would look at it and go, oh, that's not close enough. Move on to the next one. Oh, that's not close enough. Move on to the next one. And you felt bad for him for all of these parts that he had to open and search for and re-describe a different way. It was taking him a long time, and it was actually just reducing their capacity for quotes. They were not responding to some quotes that came in the door. They were taking so long to respond to them. He was working on the weekends, and you just genuinely. Especially myself, that came from a world where I always had online instant quoting platforms, right? I just
Right.
was blown away by this. And so luckily the owner of that organization saw a lot of value in our tool just simply to help out his sales team. And they were able to, first and foremost, I think the biggest thing was they were able to improve their accuracy through leveraging the past quotation data, which was something that we didn't even realize was an issue in the beginning, because eventually, through searching for this, you just say, okay, that was close enough, rather than continuing on in that search. And lastly, the reduction in quote lead time really meant that they were able to start winning a lot more business because they were replying to those quote requests so much faster and able to get that buyers back on the phone and quickly just say, hey, this is about where I'm going to be. Do I need to be any closer? Things along those lines. And while it's one of those small shops, they do so much volume in regards to different parts that it really meant a lot to the owner of that business to empower his team to act faster, move faster, not work nights and weekends, and still drive the business to a much higher growth trajectory.
That's awesome. All right, Chris, bring us home with a demo.
Absolutely.
Because I want to see this sucker in action, and I think the viewers do too, because this is phenomenal, man.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get in it here. So first, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to go over to the CADDi Drawer application, and this is what I mean by you logging in and you instantly seeing the parts that you have designed, and the fact that we're really oriented in regards to thumbnail views of the parts themselves. See the shape instantly, right? First, I want to walk you through that keyword search that I talked about. So let's just start searching for some keywords here. We're going to search bearing, right? And if you're lucky enough to have a PLM or a PDM tool, you'll know that, a PDM tool could have found this part for you really quick. The part name is bearing, right? But what it wouldn't have found is, here's an assembly drawing. The bearing isn't described here at all. It's in the bill of materials. And so now okay, wait a minute, part number XYZ from our suppliers about to go end of life, I need to find that part number scattered about all of our data in order to start replacing those parts throughout our assemblies before this product goes end of life. And we can even start narrowing that down further when we start looking at, we can tie these searches together. So we're looking for a bearing made out of A36 steel. Boom, now we've got three of them here. And look at those shapes. Wait a minute, this one in the middle of the screen is about, what I'm roughly about what I'm going to start designing here. Does this work for me instead, right? And that's one of those ways that those engineers use that tool. They're going in and they're just searching for the information that can be right at their fingertips rather than locked away in cabinets. We start looking at a bracket, for example, and our boss just walked by us and said, "Hey, we've got too many different brackets on the shelf. Go figure out which ones we can combine into a single part." And so they'll go into the system and they'll find a bracket like the one that we have here in the middle of the screen, and they'll go ahead and select it. And this is where I mentioned our similarity search tool earlier in this upper right hand corner. They can click on that similar button, and within seconds, it pulls forward all of those shapes that, based on the geometry inside of the part, are similar. And they can start thinking to themselves, wait a minute, well, these parts here, there's not much of a difference here. There's maybe little differences in where the holes are, and now I've got a couple of extra holes in this part here, and I got a couple extra holes in that part there, and they're really able to move to a point quickly where they say to themselves, wait a minute, I'm going to go ahead and redesign the part, and I'm going to redesign that part to accommodate all of those mounting locations rather than these one-off mounting locations. I'm going to get 5 or 6 part numbers out of our system. I'm going to stop taking up that shelf space inside of our inventory room. And now that the purchasers can negotiate, they need 500 of this bracket per year rather than 100 of each of the 5 brackets before. And that should absolutely help save our organization money as well. And so I hope that makes sense in regards to some of those engineering use cases. I want to
Absolutely.
walk through for just a second a little bit of kind of using the same parts, a little bit of a advanced procurement use case here as well. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to search for that bearing again. And we're going to select this bearing in the middle of this screen. And if the audience can pretend with me for a second, the engineering team just walked over to my desk. I'm a buyer who's been in my role for just 2 weeks now. I'm green behind the ears. I'm ready to tackle the world, but I don't know anything about our vendors at all, and who performs well at what, who doesn't perform well at other things. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the CADDi Drawer application to ingest that drawing. And then I'm going to go up to the upper right-hand corner of the screen here again, and I'm going to click that similar button where when we set this up for buyers within their organization, we include in that thumbnail things like, how many purchase orders have you written for that part in the past? Where are you buying that part from? And how much are you spending per part over what quantities? So that a buyer, if they want to move really, really quick, they can say to themselves, okay, well, Polaris Precision seems to be okay, and Central State Turning seems to be okay, and Midwest Tool and Die seems to be okay. I know that I can go ahead and send these parts to those particular shops for a request for quote. But let's go one step further, because one of the things that I've learned through my career is that the majority of people who start in a junior level buying role, they have a lot of aspirations to be on supply chain teams and solving complex problems and being hyper strategic within their organization. So they're going to go through and they're going to actually select these individual parts that they feel are the most similar in nature. We are strong believers here that this AI technology is there to empower people, not make decisions for them. And so when we set this up, we did not choose an exclusion zone. So as you scroll and scroll, they become less and less similar. You can kind of see the similarity. There's a hole through the center with some ears hanging off of it, with some mounting locations on it. But As a buyer, I'm smart enough to, as long as I've got pictures of these parts in front of me, I'm smart enough to know where the similarity ends. And then
Sure.
I'm going to go up to the upper right-hand corner of my screen and I'm going to click download. And I'm going to download all of the data that is behind those drawings inside of our systems. And what that looks like is a drawing that's very similar to the one that I have here, whereby which you have the data from your PLM system. You have the data from your manufacturing execution system in there. You have the data off of the drawing, the materials, right? You have the data from your procurement system, all normalized. You have data from your quality systems, right? Your supplier scorecards and any type of defect reports. And instantly, if I'm an advanced user, right, I know, okay, wait a minute, I'm getting some defective parts. What are those parts? Okay, good to know, good to know. Let's check on the supplier score there. Well, okay, it's a 71 supplier score compared to some 88s and some 94s for some similar parts. Let's go look at the pricing here really quick. Okay, here's my pricing. It's right in the average of pricing that I'm receiving on this part from of similar parts from this same supplier. Who is that supplier? I'm going to go all the way back over to the side here, and oh, I got that minimized. That's Raymond Metal and Assembly, and they seem to be making, these are two different parts for me, 3 orders on each of those 2 different parts. I now know a few things. I know I'm not going to send that RFQ to Raymond Metal and Assembly, right? The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go grab those 2 parts. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to do a quick drawing ID search. I'm going to drop those 2 drawing IDs in here. I'm going to search for them. Lo and behold, these 2 components are indeed very similar to the part that we're about to source. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take and download these 2 drawings as well, and I'm going to send all 3 of the parts, the new part and the 2 existing parts, either to Breezy Hill Precision or Polaris Precision Machining. And what I've just done there is I've given those 2 shops that are performing well more parts to quote. My economies of scale are going to go in my favor when I do that. I also just did a little bit of supplier consolidation. I'm taking a supplier away that is performing poorly, and therefore I'm increasing the quality across my entire supply chain by doing so. And I'm not sure of any other way that you would have been able to do that as fast as I just did here, Jim.
No, not even a little bit. I mean, granted, Chris, you this is your job. You know this software better than probably 90% of the people out there. But it was, and I use this with all love and due respect. That was stupidly simple. I
Yeah,
mean, it was stupidly simple how easy it was for you to find that information.
they followed the primary rule of engineering when they set this system up. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yep, absolutely. I am blown away. And this is from somebody who's seen a demo already of Caddy, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't this in depth. This is amazing, man. I'm really impressed. So, when you are doing this demo, Chris, what is the most common question that you are asked or your sales team is asked? And you guys serve so many different roles that you can pick your favorite, but what is that most common question that you guys get?
Yeah, I think there's 2 most common questions that we get that are really really interesting, my favorite ways to reply to them as well. It's and I talked a little bit about it earlier. It's how fast can you show me value? We
Yeah.
do have 1 or 2 competitors out there. They're big, massive software organizations. If you're in the industry, you're familiar with those names. And what I've heard is sometimes those implementations are 2 years and the licenses are $2 million. And I they don't have time to wait for that. They've heard the pitches from these big companies in the past. And I kind of like to call ourselves the 90-10 version of it. 90% of the features, 10% of the cost, 10% of the implementation time. And that's a fun way of describing that and responding to that.
Oh, I love that part. The title of this episode might be the 90-10 rule, just because I like that a lot, Chris. Well done.
Yeah, and my second favorite one to answer is who in my organization should have access to this tool? And
Mm.
and my answer to that is everyone, right? Because every day I'm learning a new way that this tool is utilized. I was at a manufacturer the other day, and I would have never thought to give access to this person, and I should have, right? I'm curious enough that I should have known it. But their receptionist, who takes all of the calls, who has to route to the parts group or to the sales or to somebody else, who doesn't know that a company is calling them up and saying, "Hey, this is Chris over at Acme Machine Corp. I'm calling about part number XYZ. Do you know where that's at in your process?" Right? Well, you got to refer to sales, and then sales has to take notes, and then they've got to walk out to production in order to figure out where it is on the schedule, or walk over to quality. Have you measured the part yet? Are you about to ship it? What's the shipping tracking number yet? That receptionist now goes, "What was that part number again? It looks like it's in quality right now. It's going through an inspection process right now. Do you want to talk to quality? Do you want to talk to your sales rep? Nope, that's all I wanted to learn. Thank you very much. Click." Think about all the time that was just saved.
Yeah, absolutely. That's massive.
Never would have thought to give a tool like this to somebody, to a receptionist in the past.
It's a CRM tool for certain roles because my brain is uncomplex. That's where my brain goes. So that's amazing.
Manufacturing insight tool. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love it. Chris, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for being on today, man. Is there anything I didn't ask you?
Uh, how to get a hold of Caddy? Follow,
Yes.
follow us on LinkedIn. We're posting constantly there. We're going to so many trade shows this year. My calendar is packed with trade shows. Please meet us there. If you're going to IMTS, please come say hi to us at the booth. If you're going to any regional show in between now and then, there's a strong likelihood that we're going to be there. CADDi.com/en-us-drawer. You can go learn more there. Get the link through LinkedIn. Go Google it. It's easier to find us there. And yeah,
I mean, should people reach out to you directly, or is there somebody that they should reach out to?
they can, Jim. Absolutely. And there's a strong likelihood that I'll get them in touch with somebody on my team, but I'm always there to answer questions as well.
Awesome. And yeah, I might as well say this now. If you are going to IMTS, come to the Manufacturing Connector event on Wednesday night from 9 to midnight at Brando's Speakeasy and Karaoke Bar, sponsored by Caddy. We're going to have a party. It's an open bar, man. We're going to have a great time. Chris, what song are you going to sing?
You might see me perform a little Bon Jovi that night, not gonna lie.
All right. I'd love to see
Hanging
that.
on a prayer by 11 p.m. might happen.
If I'm still there by 11 p.m., I am living on a prayer currently.
Or too many adult cocktails.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It'll be a great time. I'm so excited to spend time with the team there. But everybody watching, Caddy, great partner in this event at IMTS. Check out their booth. Come to the evening event. It'll be a lot of fun. Chris, again, thank you so much for being on. This was awesome.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Yeah, you got it. Folks, thank you so much for joining us on the Manufacturing Connector. I hope you found today's episode super insightful. Like, if you all saw it, my jaw dropped like 9 times. Huge thanks to Chris Brown from Caddy for sharing his expertise and showcasing how Caddy is revolutionizing the manufacturing industry with their amazingly innovative solutions. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an update. There are going to be more episodes like this. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hit the bell icon to get notified every time we release a new video. Also, make sure you're checking out that other show, the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. We have a lot of fun. We tell a lot of stories. This show came because people didn't want solutions on that series. They just wanted the human nature stories. So check out that show. Keep following this show, rate and review this show. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions in the comments below. What challenges are you facing in your journey in this industry? Is it software? Is it hardware? Is it technology in general? What topics would you like us to cover in future episodes? I have to know these things. Stay connected with us on social media for more exclusive content and updates. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Remember, at the Manufacturing Connector, we're here to empower you with the latest innovations and insights in the manufacturing world. Join us next time as we continue to explore the future of manufacturing, one story at a time. Until then, keep innovating, keep connecting, and see the future of manufacturing today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.